Hey kindergartners, it's Wilderness Wednesday, and so we are gonna start with sit spots. So go outside and find a spot to sit down, be quiet, and take in the nature around you for 10 minutes today. So, 2 options, remember. You can sit down and use your 4 senses. Don't use taste today. You can use seeing, smelling, hearing, and touch to see what the story is that nature's telling you today. Or I thought that you could find yourself a great spot to sit to look at trees and really study the trees to see what they look like. So your second option today is to draw a tree. I'm gonna sit in my sit spot with Finley. We are gonna be super quiet and we are each gonna draw a tree. And then we'll show you what it looks like afterwards. So here we go. Okay, kindergartners, we finished our sit spots. You'll notice in our sit spots, we were sitting kind of close together. And that was just for the video so you could see us drawing our trees. Normally for sit spots, you're gonna wanna spread out from your family members so you can each have a space to yourself. So, Finley and I are gonna show you how we drew our trees. Remember, each tree is different. So no matter which tree you draw, it is gonna be spectacular. Let's hear how Finley drew his tree.
First I started with the grass, and then I made the trunk, and then I put this part, which is the top of the trunk, and then I did the branches, and then I started putting like all the leaves, and then I started doing the blue, and then I did my roots, and then I did my clouds, and then I did the sun, and then I finished with all my blue for the background, and then I used the twistable to do the background of the grass, and that's how I did my tree.
And this is how I did my tree, kindergartners. I started with the trunk of the tree, and when I made the trunk, I went straight up, and you'll notice letter Y. I made a letter Y right there. And then when I built all the branches, I tried to either do a curvy little line or I built them by making letter Ys. If you had to count all the letter Ys in this tree, it'd be so many. Look at Y, 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 Y. So many Ys. And so I did the branches almost all with letter Ys. And then I added the leaves on the edges of the branches because when I looked at the tree, they weren't covering the whole tree yet because it's spring. And then I did my ground, and then underneath your trunk comes the roots of the tree. And then I just did a light coloring of the dirt and of the sky. Now this tree is a deciduous tree. A deciduous tree has leaves. Finley drew the same one. So we have deciduous trees. They are trees that have leaves and the leaves fall off. So now what we're going to do with our deciduous trees is we are going to label them. Let's take a look at that. The last final thing I did with my drawing of the tree is that I labeled it. So at the top you'll see the word tree, because it's a tree. I have the roots labeled at the bottom, and then move up to the trunk, and then I moved up to the branches, and I wrote leaves sideways, and then made an arrow to several of the leaves. So that is my deciduous tree, a tree that has leaves. Finley and I decided to spend extra time out here, and let me show you what else we drew. This is a different kind of tree that I drew. We also have coniferous trees in our yard. A coniferous tree is a tree that has needles. So a deciduous has leaves and a coniferous has needles. So when you're looking at the labels, I still labeled the roots, and then I moved up to the trunk, I moved up to the branches, and I did not label the leaves. I labeled the needles because coniferous trees have needles. When you look at the trees right by each other, you'll notice that their branches are different. That tree that has leaves, the branches are different because these branches go up towards the sun, because this tree needs its leaves to get up to the sun to grow. Now, a coniferous tree, a tree that has needles, their branches go out, almost in straight lines opposite of each other. So when you're drawing a tree today, if that's the option you choose, make sure you pay attention to if it's a tree that has leaves, and you should have letter Y branches going up, or if it's a tree that has needles and those branches go out. I have one other thing you could draw while you're sitting out here today. The other thing you might see out in nature today are flowers. So I see 2 flowers in my yard. One of the flowers that I see, and I labeled my paper flowers, is a tulip. And then the other flower I see a lot of right now are a whole bunch of dandelions. We have the roots for both have roots. And then flowers do not have trunks. You'll see I labeled it stem and stem. They have leaves, and then the flower part of both of them have something called petals. So kindergartners, there are your 2 options for sit spots today. You can sit down and enjoy the nature around you and just take it in and relax. Or you can draw a tree or flowers that you see in your sit spot. We would love to see you label those trees and flowers. Maybe you want to do a tree and a flower. I'm excited to see what you do. If you take option 2 and you draw a tree or a flower, seesaw it to your teachers so we can see how awesome it is. Have a great time doing sit spots.